In this session, we're going to add the dash ability. So the player can move through the enemy and also do the dash and also damage without interfering with other things in the game. For example, it cannot pass through the wall, but it can pass through the enemy and does that. And we also add the bottom for that. Here, we need to make a bottom. For example, something like this. I brought one of the legs of the player here and it would be going there. And don't forget that you let me reset that. Okay, we have something like this. Is dashing. Okay, let's go to so click on that and listening to buttons. You just you can use that in the player movement. No, play on the player and open the player movement and yeah, private void on dash. It has to be exactly the action name that we had in our action map. Okay, say on dash. Before you forget that to add the on dash um, to the COI button, go there and just find the keyboard for the or you can just press for the listen for button and press the left shift and connect it to that as we had it before. It was left shift, so press left shift for that. So you have it and it is connected to this. Also, the player make a new animation called dash and make your animation, for example, it should be very fast. Maybe I change this later according to the speed of the dash, but something like this. So it has kind of the sword is towards the enemy and moves there. And with that said, I think that we're ready to. Oh no, we're not ready. Where is the dash? Any state here, it is a trigger. And call dash. Yes. Dash has this trigger. I think that would be 0. I wanted it as very fast. And then exit time 9. Um, very. So that is this dash and nothing here. And it is not looped as it is only a trigger. And I think that we're ready to code. Here, I don't want to be able to spam the dash like we did for the attack. So I also add for example, a cooldown. We don't have here, okay. And I say serialized field, private, float, dash cooldown, down time. I think yes, every 1 second, if it's pressed on that, it's able to. Then also we have a timer, float timer, which is equal to this at first. So we will be able to do that in the beginning of the game, but later it will be 0. And it will take 1 second to perform the dash again. And let's go to update. Yes, it is here. And here say timer plus equal to time dot delta time. And on dash we say if cooldown dash cooldown timer is more than or equal to dash cooldown, then you are allowed to perform the dash. And after it performs, the timer would be 0, so it would again takes 1 second to be able to be jump to dash again. And here say anim that set trigger, it was dash. And here we need to write the code. I think that is better that be outside of that. So say private void just dash player dash. It's better to separate that for readability, but you can also add it here. But no problem, it's fine all the way. Okay. And as we want that, for example, change the gravity from first and then wait for example, 1 second and then reset that. So we have something waiting thing. So it's better that it be enumerator. Enumerator. And yes, it gives error because we didn't add yield returns. Don't worry, we'll add them later. So instead of that, perform dash, we say start quarantine and player dash should be executed. So we have this. So what we want to do when it is done, first, yes, we want that it has a very fast speed. Just for example, for half a second, and even if it's in the middle of the air, the gravity wouldn't affect on that. So we should reset the gravity to 0. And then after half a second that the dash is, for example, we finish the dash, it's had to return to this number, so we have to somehow save that. And yes, let's do that, and then we will later add things related to them. So in order to get the gravity, we need the RB gravity scale, but I want to somehow save the value. So I say float player gravity is equal to RB dot gravity scale. Okay. Then here we say RB dot gravity scale is 0. If it didn't save that, so we would lose the number of the gravity scale. That's why I saved it here. So later when the dash is finished, we will give this again to this. And we say RB, that's add force. And we should give it a dash force. Private float dash dash speed, not force. It would be, what's the speed here? 10. We will later check which one is better. We'll change that in the inspector. So we also need to get um, the direction. But for example, we don't want that we move. We haven't moved. So imagine that it's the start of the game and we are not on the left or right. We didn't press any button because here we have to press any button to get the value. So it's better that we get the local scale X because at the beginning of the game it is set. So I say transform for the direction in dash speed and also RB dot. You can write this or you can just say RB dot velocity is equal to, what is a 2D, that's it's better that we use that, but let's keep the RB dot add force for applying force for the enemy. But for this, new vector 2, yes, this in dash speed and RB dot velocity y. Okay, and also we want that dash duration. I think at half a second is good. So we say yield return new wait for second for example, yes, half a second is good. Then after half a second, we have to return the gravity scale to this is equal to this. For example, it was 2, but then it becomes 0, but then we added 2 to that. And then let's check it as the code is saved. No, what is that? Yes, it is done, but it doesn't move. To fix that problem, one of the ways is that you connect it to the fixed updates. Because we are working with the rigid body, So here I say private bool can dash, and here on dash I say can dash is true, and instead of calling this in this, I bring it in the fixed update and say if can dash, then do this. But if I just do that, then every frame it is dashing, so I have to make it false. Now the problem is fixed. Let's go and check the code here. Let me deactivate him. So what is the Lord Labs? Let's begin. So you see this is working. I increase the amount to, for example, 200, and this is dashing. But there's a problem. For example, imagine that your dash is this. You see that it is stuck here. To prevent that, go to rigid body, collision detection, and make it continuous. So it continuously checks for detection, for the collision. Do not do that for every character in the game because it is very taxing and not performance friendly. But for the player, that's fine because it's only one object. And then if you go there and make it, what's that? 400. And if you dash, it prevents it to go to the wall. You see? Okay. So I decrease this to this. I think that is amount is better. All right. Now I want to add an enemy, and I want to be able to push him and also to inflict him damage. To do that, we had something in the player melee attack. You have to do something like this. Okay. As I don't want to, for example, bring the attack position again to the player movement, so I move my these codes to the player attack. So everything would be here. Um, Fixed update. Okay, I placed them here, and I bring them there. True X. Um, ah, as there are lots of cooldowns here, so I change it to cool timer dash. Ah, um, and here also I need to define the rigid body, so I grab it from here. As we also need the enemy health, so that's why, for example, everything should be here. That is better. That makes more sense. If only you dash, you fine. You can put your code here because it's kind of a movement. But as you want to inflict damage, so that is kind of attack. So you better put it here because your attack codes are there. So your everything is fine. And now for inflicting damage to the enemy, I can directly, for example, I go and have this one, which is here, sword damage. and bring it there. All right. But here you see that delay damage. Let me go to definition. Um, does it has no? It doesn't have animation of that. So it's good. Let's check it out. What? Ah, where is can dash? Oh, I forgot to bring it here. I also need the fixed update and put it there. And don't forget to change the dash speed to the, I think it was this, yes? Or make it this. And now let's play a game. Okay, so it inflicts damages and also moves enemy a bit. But if you want that, it's really push the enemy, we can add a secret code. Okay, to add a force, let me go here. So instead of yes, I want that, for example, it detects all the enemy one by one, and then add the force. But I don't want that for the melee attack. It just do that. So I have to bring it separately in my code. Where is that? Yes. Comment it and bring it here. Sword damage. Okay, now you have your each enemy. You just add the force. Um, Here you need to guess the rigid body of the enemy. If the enemy doesn't have any rigid body, then the thing that I'm saying to you, the applying the force to that wouldn't work. So make sure that you use the rigid body. So here I say enemy, no, it's a rigid body 2D, enemy RB is equal to enemy here. Um, that gets component this. Now we need to, for example, have the which direction the force should be. So I say vector to that dash force direction. So new vector 2. Let me see. I think on the flip enemy we had that. Um, okay, it's not important. I say it again. So I say transform that local scale, that's x. For example, it is 1 or -1, and y on 0. 0 for the y. And here I say RB, what is the name? Enemy RB. That's add force. We need the force power here. Let me go there. Serialized field, private int force or push power. Push force. For example, yes, something like this. And then here we say dash force multiply by let's push force. Okay, and I can say the force mode, for example, a burst movement force mode that's 2D, that's impulse. Okay, just added the force. So that's it, and then let's save it and play the game. Okay, I think that's not enough. Where is the attack? Okay, I may make it 1000, something like this. So it pushes that. And to prevent it to happen, you can also make the collider not to be continuous, or do not make it very high number. Okay, let's assume we have more enemies. So here we can push them. And you might want to, for example, be able to pass through the enemies so that you kind of go behind them. So yeah, I can show you how to do that. So one way is that you make the box collider of the enemy, of the player, to be disabled. For example, where you have make the gravity scale 0, you can make the collider disabled. And when you return the gravity, you also, before that, make the collider to be activated again, for example. But that approach has problem because it can, for example, if you stay here and do the dash, then you might also pass through the wall because you don't have any collider. So that option doesn't work here unless that you want to be a ghost and to be able to move in everywhere. But for I want that the player cannot dash through the wall, but can dash through the enemy. So for that, do you remember that we have collision matrix? So we use that here. So we make that, okay, during the dash, try to ignore the collision of the enemy. And after the dash is finished, then okay, then again, you can consider the enemy collider. Here in my code, okay, when this is 0, before I do the dash, I say physics 2D, that's ignore layer collision. This is the game object, that's layer, I mean the layer that the player is on, and okay, the player of the layer, but to which layer? Compared to which layer? The layer that the enemy is. And here I say a layer mask dot name to layer. Okay, which one? The enemy one. Okay, this one to be true. I mean, okay, ignore that. And ignore and do the dash so they can collide, and the collision is kind of deactivated between the player layer and enemy layer. And after it is finished, after half a second, then this is false. So again, they can collide with each other. So now let's go and test the game. Right now, I can collide with them. But when I say dash, when I press dash, I can go through them. But I cannot pass through the wall. I can only pass through the enemy, okay? Something like this, and bang. So that was it. And remember that you can always change things according to your own game. For example, maybe you want to first check if the player is grounded, then he would be able to do the dash.